welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer. My guest today wanted to be a rock star growing up. He is now the founder of OurCFO. Greg Smargiassi, welcome.
Hello, Tracy.
Hi, how are you?
I am very well, very, very well. And how are you?
Good, I'm good, thank you. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, it's come around fairly quick, and so I've been looking forward to this. I haven't done a podcast like this before, so yeah, it's a first.
Awesome.
Mm.
Fabulous. Well, welcome, and I'm really stoked to have you as my guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Greg, walk us through. Growing up, you wanted to be a rock star. What happened? Is that still on the cards?
I ask myself the same question occasionally. What did happen? But yeah, it was an interest in my late teenage years, and I did own a guitar for about a year during that time. And I guess there was just a bit of pressure on, or a bit of peer pressure, maybe even a bit of family pressure, that wasn't the best route to go. Do some study, get a job, and follow that path. So that's ultimately what I did. But the dream is still alive. It just might not happen inside the next 10 years.
Fair enough. And do you still play guitar?
I do, yeah. It's a wonderful thing. I'm very, very grateful that I've discovered that as an interest and a hobby. I really enjoy music in different forms. I like to listen to music. I love to see live shows and also get to play, which is something that I really enjoy. It's a great way to wind out from a long day, to relax.
Yes.
And the other thing I really enjoy about it is learning. So to master any instrument could be a lifelong ambition. And certainly, I've got a day job, and I can see myself spending the rest of my time learning and mastering that instrument. So it's something that I dearly love.
And do you sing as well, or just play the guitar?
I have ambition to sing. I've not had any formal singing training, so I don't generally sing anywhere in public. It might be in the shower or in the privacy of my own. But other than that, at this stage, yeah, it's a very personal thing. But again, at some point in the future, I see myself taking some singing lessons and improving that part of my ability. But again, it's a hobby, so it's not a major priority. But I really enjoy it. I do love it.
And do you play acoustic or is it electric?
Mostly acoustic, but it's a very different style of guitar. So when I say guitar, people automatically think that you play the guitar in a traditional position. And the style of guitar that I play is called a lap style slide guitar.
I've
so
heard
what
of
happens
this.
with that is the guitar literally lays flat on my lap. And I use a piece of steel, and it's called a steel, to run up and down the strings to create the slide guitar sound. So there's guys like Ben Harper, who's an American singer-songwriter. Some Australian guys play the same instrument, John Butler, who a lot of people would be familiar with, and Xavier Rudd, another Australian guy that also plays that style of guitar. So they've kind of brought that back into, I wouldn't say mainstream, but brought it back into just kind of alternative music perhaps, or blues and root style music. And there's a particular type of slide guitar that I play, and it's often referred to as a Weizen-born guitar. And so the Weizen-born guitar was invented in the 1920s. So that style of guitar has just turned 100 years old. And there was a German gentleman by the name of Henry Weizen-born that moved from Germany to Hawaii in the 1920s, and he saw the Hawaiian guitar players that play that Hawaiian music on that flat on the lap style of guitar, and he took his violin making skills and converted that into creating this instrument. So it's a beautiful instrument. I was very fortunate to have two of them custom made for me by a guy who used to live in Hawaii but now lives in California, and he used the original material to make those guitars. So they were originally built using a Hawaiian koa, which is a type of timber. So the two Weizen-born style guitars that I have are made from that timber. So they're the resonance, the sound, everything about them is incredibly unique, and the sound is incredible. I just love
It
it.
would be. Wow.
So
I
it's
grew
very
up in a
different.
home. Yeah.
Mm.
What was that? Sorry.
It's very different, the style. It's as I said, when people ask me to play guitar, it's like, yes, they have no real imagination unless they're interested or know about that style, that it's not what people usually think.
Yes, I was going to say we grew up in a home where my dad plays guitar, but he had the traditional acoustic, and then he later on got an electric guitar, and then he got Marshall, which was his amp, became like a fourth child in the family.
Oh wow,
And
that sounds like
he would yeah, he still plays, and like you said before, it's like a lifelong journey, learning that instrument. And I could definitely see it was sort of like his wind down time, and our house sounded like a pub sometimes, but it was really great because that was just his creative space.
yeah, yeah, and that's the other great thing about it. You mentioned creativity. There's so much that can be done in that respect, and that's one of the other things that I enjoy about it is you can just noodle away, play some random stuff, go through a scale or something, and it kind of sounds good. So yeah, it kind of surprised myself every now and then. It's like, wow, that actually sounds like a song, or sounds like
Nice.
something somebody would listen to. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you have a YouTube channel?
no, I don't do
Oh,
anything like that. So I mean, eventually, I think I would. Um, I'm a very homey person, so I don't see myself as a traveling musician. So it's
right.
kind of there's kind of this dichotomy in that, I had this imagination or dream about being a musician, but I don't think I could live the musician's lifestyle, and I read a lot about
Yeah.
musicians, and they spend 8 months to 10 months of the year on the road. And if they do that for most of their working career, they spend most of their life living out of a suitcase in a hotel room, which does not appeal to me.
Mm.
So I think it's more for personal joy now that I've had time to really contemplate that, and maybe a studio musician, maybe just creating music and publishing it. And if anybody listens to it, that's great. But if they don't, that's okay as
Yeah.
well. I don't intend to making a living out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, these days at my age and at my stage in life, it's really just a creative outlet and a hobby that I thoroughly enjoy, and plan to spend more time doing that once my work life slows down a little bit. So that's probably another 10 years away, I think.
Nice. And Greg, I know last time we spoke, you have a few other daily practices that you engage in, like breathing exercises. Do you mind to walk us through and share how that's impacted your life as a business owner?
Yeah, it's something that I'm very passionate about in a general sense. You hear the words health and wellness, and I made a decision about 10 years ago, that I knew that running a business was going to be my path. That was a decision that was made at the time. And having learned a lot about successful entrepreneurs and reading about them, one of the things that really stood out for me was that it's like a marathon.
Mm.
Um, and it's intense. And that's certainly been my experience. It's not been an easy journey. And for those reasons, I felt that to go the distance, and not just to go the distance, but to do it really well and have the energy that's required to do it, I really did need to look after myself, both physically and mentally. So a decision was made, as I said, about 10 years ago, that I needed to be in the best shape that I could be if I was going to have any chance of successfully growing a business. And so the morning routine is fairly, I was going to say intense, but it's actually very relaxing, but it's very
Good.
disciplined. So I get up at usually between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. And because I intermittent fast, I do not have an evening meal. The first thing that I want to do when I get up is eat something. So I'm usually very hungry by that time.
At 4:30 in the morning.
Yes. So my
Oh,
last
wow.
meal will be at lunchtime, and then
Yes.
I might have a snack, one or two snacks. It might be just a handful of nuts or something like that, but essentially not much food at all after 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm.
So 4:30, have breakfast, and then I'll meditate for up to 25 minutes in the morning. And I use a breathing style of meditation. So some people call it breathwork. So I'll do breathing exercises for about 20 minutes, and then I'll stretch for anywhere between half an hour and an hour. I do a lot of sitting as an office worker, and so there's challenges that comes with a sedentary lifestyle like that. So it's about getting the body moving, and it's also about clearing the mind and getting ready for the day. And there's ways that we can manipulate our sympathetic or our nervous system so we can get it relaxed, or we can fire it up and get ready for the day. So the breathing exercises I do in the morning gets me ready for the day, to handle the day. So once I've done the breakfast, the breathwork / meditation, stretching, and then 3 or 4 days a week, I'll do some strength training or functional resistance training to make sure that I'm maintaining my body mass. So you may know that once you hit 35, research says,
I have no idea what you're speaking about.
We all get there. You must be about 29.
I'm 25.
25. Okay, let's
Sorry.
go with 25.
Yeah. What was that? Sorry.
First quarter century. So you got a few more to go.
Yes.
But
Yes.
after 35, what happens is that our muscle mass declines by about 1% per year. And to stop the decline in the muscle mass requires strength training to rebuild muscle. And it's really important that we maintain muscle mass for a whole bunch of reasons. But, we have a fascia system which sits between our skin and our muscles. And then we have our muscles, and then we have our skeletal system. And so the fascia system is activated through stretching. The muscle system is activated through strength training. And we need to maintain mobility and strength in those two things, because if we don't, then it then becomes the job of the skeletal system to hold us upright. And
Yes.
if we do that, that's when the pain sets in. That's when chronic pain sets in. And I've been there. I've been in a condition where I was suffering chronic pain, physical pain, which then in turn affected my mental capacity and my mental health, because just being in pain all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Extreme grumpy pants for me, it's just like grumpiness.
And you're no longer like that anymore, Greg?
Oh, look, I can't say that I'm 100% perfect, but compared to what I was during that time, I am in very good shape. I turned 54 in a couple of months. And physically and mentally, I feel like I'm in a really, really good nick at the moment. So all that work is definitely worthwhile.
Yes. And so how long does that morning routine take you?
So I would generally get to my desk at about 8:30 in the morning. So there's about 4 hours of, I've done kind of half a day of things before I even start work. And it's great because it's, I think certainly I can only speak for myself, I guess, but what I used to do, the morning was all about getting up and getting ready for work. And I've kind of flipped that and said, well, the morning is getting up and spending a bunch of time looking after myself and making sure that I'm in great condition, and then start work. So for me and my body type and my personality type, it's really important that I do that. Otherwise, I just won't perform at the level that I need to sustain the challenge of growing a business. And not only that, but the kind of work that I do, it's all about problem solving. So I spend all day, every day, solving financial problems, and it's really quite challenging. It's not easy. And with the service model that we've got, I work with a number of businesses, so we might have 15 to 20 clients at one time. So there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems to solve. There's complexity, and it does take its toll. And, on a Friday night, there's nothing more enjoyable than sitting down with a glass of water, no alcohol, and pulling out the guitar and just easing my way into a weekend and letting the intensity come off, in terms of, what I'm feeling in my body and in my mind. But I do enjoy it. It's the challenge. And getting outside of the comfort zone is where all the growth happens. So sitting in comfort all the time is not a good idea. It's actually not a good idea.
And do you find that you're constantly pushing yourself outside your comfort zone for that reason?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all relative, because we have our own sort of blinkers on. So we might think that we're outside of our comfort zone, and
Yeah.
maybe sometimes we're not. Maybe we're just making that up. So
Yeah, true.
one of the reasons why I have a coach, and I also belong to a business mastermind group to make sure or help me see beyond what I see through my own frames or my own glasses or my own field of reference, my own reality. And so my reality is just that. It's just mine. It's nobody else's. So what I'm seeing is not necessarily what's actually going on in the world. So therefore, I have other people just checking me to make sure that I'm not too lost in my own little mind.
Yes, which it happens to all of us.
It does, yeah. It's common. So again, knowing that, it's a great idea to make sure that we are looking beyond our own noses.
And how often do you meet with your group, Greg?
So we meet monthly for a day.
Okay.
And with my coach, I meet once a week with him.
Yeah, I must say for me as well, having that person or that group that holds you accountable and, like you said, does push you outside that comfort zone is really important. Because, like you said, we get stuck in our own head and something we might think is outside our comfort zone, it's actually not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's right on the money. So I think it's really important, especially again, I talk about business a lot, but that is so important to be able to have a helicopter view of the business, because when you're stuck in the weeds, it's very, very difficult to see beyond the weeds.
Yes.
So somebody's going to pull you out and say, look, this is what the view looks like at the moment, even though it looks a little bit different down there. And I don't know, if you ever have been up in a helicopter or even a fixed wing plane,
yes,
the Earth just looks entirely different.
It does.
It's just a very different perspective.
Yeah.
So in a business sense, I think it's really, really important to do the same thing.
And Greg, walk us through what sort of challenges have you faced as a business owner? Perhaps are there 3 that you'd be comfortable to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, it's so some people say, because you're a financial expert, you've probably never had any financial challenges. And that's not true.
Yeah.
So, business is the financial position of the business is very much a function of how the rest of the business is operating. So, for example, one of the biggest challenges that we've had over the years, given that we are a very unique service model, is that of marketing. So consistency around lead generation, consistency around how we message ourselves to the market, how we demonstrate our value proposition. Why would people use us? What's the value proposition? That's not directly a financial issue. Indirectly, it is. So with the challenges that we've had around marketing, for example, and getting that right, that's created all kinds of problems, including financial challenges. So it's every other, we're a business, and we have people on the team. We have, we've got to be very strategic and methodical about how we develop culture. The marketing thing, as I mentioned, has been our number one challenge, and we're still working on that. Sales, as a professional who went through university and was a tax accountant for 15 years, the idea of selling for some people is just like,
yes,
selling is a dirty word, and it's not. It's about working out if a problem that somebody has is a match for the solution that we have. It's finding out if we are a match, and if we are a match, well, then we present a solution and a value proposition to go with that. So there's been development of those kind of things. Pricing, the pricing model. How do we price ourselves? What kind of technology do we use to live into our brand promise? So all of these issues around the ingredients, and I often refer it to as an Indian curry. I like to cook, right? And I love cooking Indian curries, and some of them have 15 to 20 ingredients of different types of spices.
Yeah.
And the spices are all done differently. Some are dry fried and then put into a mortar and pestle, and you grind them up, and then you add them at a certain point in the cooking process. And similarly with the business, it's like cooking a curry, and you have to get the ingredients right. You have to get the portions right. You have to get the timing right. of adding the ingredients to the curry.
Mm.
And so these are all issues that every single business owner on the planet will face, regardless of your expertise. If you're a great lawyer, if you're a great accountant, if you're a great electrician, no longer are you just an electrician or an accountant or a lawyer or whatever your vocation is. When you become a business owner, you now need to be across so many different things.
So true.
It's very easy to drop the ball on all of those things when you're juggling, especially. It's very, very difficult to get all that right all at the same time.
Yes, I can relate to that.
Yes. So you're in the marketing space, and one of the questions in my mind, and I look at marketers and I go, right, do they have marketing issues? And I'm absolutely certain they probably would, just like everyone else. So being a financial expert does not preclude me from having financial challenges. I guess the upside there is having the tools and the skill to navigate those financial challenges, which is what we've done. We've navigated them. We've worked out how to. We're still here after 15 years. So we are.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's like really wonderful. 15 years. Well, I'm only 4 years in, and it feels about 20. So I know the feeling.
Yes, but it's incredibly rewarding as well. So it's
yes.
It's kind of a weird relationship really with it, in that we kind of, again, I'll speak for myself, wanting to create wealth so that at some point I can relax.
Yes.
And about 10 years ago, I took 6 months off when I was sort of, in between businesses and ideas. And I thought in that 6 month period, I'm just going to play guitar every day and surf every day. And I'm going to become an awesome guitar player, and I'm going to become a far better surfer than I am. And that's what I thought I would do. I could just relax into that, and it would be utopia. And I made it 6 weeks into a 6 month break, and I was so bored.
Oh, really?
I started a business. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So all of this
you just
work.
found it hard to relax?
Well, I don't find it hard to relax. I guess I just learned that I don't want to be a full-time guitar player. I don't want to be a full-time surfer.
Yes.
So it's like a process of elimination. I love them as hobbies, but if somebody said to me, that's what you're going to do every day for the rest of your life, it probably wouldn't be enough for me. I just don't know that I could. I don't know. That was 10 years ago, so that it might have even been a bit longer, but it might be different now. But it was really a great learning moment for me, in that I thought that that's what I might want to do, and I discovered that I enjoy it, but it's not what I want to do intensely for the rest of time.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of business owners, they kind of start their business with that sort of, financial freedom, time freedom goal in mind. And it's interesting that you say you had that opportunity, and then you sort of were like 6 weeks in, and then, you started another business. And I think it's just how we're wired as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's a personality type. I mean, I can't put my finger on it necessarily. But I think there's just something within our wiring. Some people ask me, why do you do it? My mum asked me the question, why do you put up with the stress and the pressure of it all? Why don't you just go and get a job? And I tried that. So I went the full circle. I went from being self-employed back to being employed again. That lasted 2 years. And after the 2 years of being employed again, it was like, not for me. I'm going to go back to being self-employed.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. I tried to go out on my own. Oh gosh, must be about 10 years ago now. And I guess I didn't have the life experience or the maturity to do so. And obviously discovered it's a lot harder than what one thinks it is. So I went back to being employed, but I think I just reached a stage, and without sounding, I guess, arrogant, you almost make yourself unemployable, because you want to run the show and you can sort of see ways I can do things better. And I wanted to go back. You mentioned personality type. Do you know what personality type you are?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of introspection, and there's lots of different personality type systems. The
Yeah.
Enneagram and disc profiling, and a multitude of others. So the one that I really resonated for me, and that I gravitated towards was I think it came from Tony Robbins. He calls it the 6 needs, but I've seen it presented as 7 needs, 7 basic
Okay.
human needs that we have. And 4 of the needs are generated by our ego. And when somebody said to me that you've got an ego, and I'm like, no, I don't have
Ah,
an ego. I'm a good
yeah.
guy. So I immediately attached negativity to this concept of ego, which I think is what a
Yeah,
lot of people
as one
do.
does. Mm.
Yeah. And so again, this is just a framework, and this is what I've gravitated
Mm.
towards. I'm not suggesting that this is the center of the universe. It's different for everybody, but this is what works for me.
Yeah.
So I understand that I have an ego, and I also understand that I have ego needs, and the ego will work to get its needs met by hook or by crook. So it will either get its needs met in a positive sense or in a negative sense. So if
Mm.
we can understand what our ego needs are, then we can work towards making sure that the needs are met, because it will force the issue. And if we don't get our ego needs met positively, we'll get our ego needs met negatively. And I'll give you some
Mm.
examples.
Yeah,
So
please.
I understand my ego, I understand what my needs are. And when I'm feeling down in the dumps, I can usually pinpoint what ego need or needs have not been satisfied today or this week or whatever the case might be. So then I can self-coach myself and say, all right, possum, time to get over yourself. It's
Yeah.
just your ego. Now, what are you going to do to make sure that you get your ego needs met going forward? So there's that part of it. And then, so that's 4 of the 7. And then 3 of the 7 are of our soul.
Okay.
And so the idea is we get a balance between our soul needs and our ego needs. So the ego needs are control is one of the 4. Variety is one of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Significance and connection. And so for each person, they're slightly different. So we lean
Right.
towards, we have higher ego needs than some of the others. So my highest ego needs are significance and variety.
Okay.
So if I'm not feeling significant, I feel down in the dumps. I feel, grumpy pants comes out again.
Yeah.
And variety is super important for me. So with whether I did this consciously or subconsciously, I've created a business where I get a lot of variety.
I see.
Dealing with different businesses, different characters, different challenges, different opportunities. And so lots of varieties contained in that. And in terms of my significance needs, I get to work with CEOs, businesses, senior executives, boards of directors. So I get a lot of significance out of that.
Mm.
And so if I'm giving advice, for example, and providing information, and say that's rejected. So the client says, nah, you're full of it. That's rubbish. I'm not going to adopt that. Then potentially there's a bit of a chink in the armor of the ego, and it's like, oh, you didn't take my
Mm.
advice. What's wrong with that? And you sort of.
Yeah.
So if my advice is not heeded, then if I am feeling a bit off color about that, I can go, hey, go back to that thing again. Hey, look, possum. I call myself possum because it's kind of taking the mickey out of myself a little bit and say, hey,
Yeah.
look, move past that. It's not the end of the world. It's just a viewpoint.
Mm.
You've given it your best shot, and there's no need to feel the way that you are because somebody didn't take your advice. Don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's a framework that I adopted, and that's what I use for myself. And then the other thing that I found by introspecting and learning about myself was that you then begin to understand other people and their behaviors.
So true. Mm.
Totally true. And I have, I've got a team of people, and they often ask me the question. It's like, how do I learn about other people? What do I do? So
Yeah.
they're just thinking,
Mm.
they're saying, well, they're implying that I need to go and do a course and to learn about other people. It's everything external to me. It's got nothing to do with me. Learning about other people, it's about everyone
Yeah.
else. And
Yeah.
I'm saying, sorry, that's not how it works.
Got it the wrong way.
Wrong way around. So,
Yeah.
that I provide there is spend most of the time learning about yourself,
Mm.
and in that process, you then start to see things in other people.
Yeah.
It's a
I've
great place to
experienced
start.
exactly the same. It's really, really good. And again, you have that viewpoint where you think, oh, I need to go study, different types of people. And like you said, nothing to do with myself. But I've really embraced that personal growth journey the last 2 or 3 years. And it's almost things that you start to see in others, like might be experiences that you've had or the way they carry themselves. You almost get like this sixth sense in some way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I was in a conversation with just the other day, and, the person said to me, she said, "You're very observant."
Mm.
And now, sometimes like presence is really important, right? So being present, being in the moment, and I can be not present when I'm not, at my best self. But one of the things
Mm.
that I practice as much as I can is being present and being in the moment and really observing what's going on with the other person, and listen to understand as opposed to listening to respond.
Mm.
And so what most of us do is we've already thought about what we're going to say before the other person has even finished their sentence. We're thinking about the response. And so that's not really being present. It's not really understanding
Mm.
the other person that you are in a conversation with. So being present for a whole range of scenarios, whether that's in a business sense or in a intimate relationship or with friends or
Mm.
whatever interaction it is, you hear about those people that have got presence and they just seem to get you. When you feel understood, you go, wow, I just really enjoyed being around that person. They just seem to get me.
Yeah.
That's them being present and listening, as opposed to just rattling off a response, cutting a
Mm.
person off when they're halfway through a sentence. It's just a very, very subtle difference, but very, very powerful.
Yes, I know the last time we met, you are definitely present. And that's why I enjoyed our conversation so much and thought I'd have you on the show because you're very present in the way that you carry yourself as well. It's definitely a point of difference.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
And I feel like I'm being sized up now. Gosh, I better watch myself.
Well, I think that's it. That's exactly what the other person said. It's like, oh, she said exactly that. And
Did
so,
she? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm like,
yeah. So on that point, responsibility comes with knowledge. Responsibility comes with power.
Mm.
So, one of the things that I look for in people is, are they using their intelligence to influence in a positive sense, or are they using their intelligence
Mm.
to manipulate? And there's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
So it comes down to your own, in my view, your own values and what you stand for and your contribution to the world at large, and how do you use your
Mm.
skills to do that. And I've run into some people where I've felt manipulated.
Mm.
And so when I feel manipulated, then there's immediately the distrust flag goes up, and it's like, well, there's something about that person that I just don't quite feel comfortable with. I can't put my finger on it, but it's just doesn't feel right to me.
Mm.
And so all of this stuff, I'm a very head-based person. I've thought all of my hair off. I've thought so much that my hair fell out. And
Oh my gosh, I better watch myself.
and it's so I'm known as being a deep thinker, and to be able
Mm.
to switch that, and this has also been a part of the training and the self-development, is to get out of my head and into my body and feel what's going on within my body, but also sense and feel what's going on with the people around me.
Mm.
And if I'm in my head, I'm going internal. I'm actually not looking outside of myself. I'm in my head, literally. And
Yeah.
there's that little voice that we've got in our head that's just at us the whole time.
Yes, I know
Some of us
exactly
have
which
got
one.
some of us have got a committee. You know, there's a whole bunch of
Yes.
people sitting around there just blah, 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 the whole time. So we've all got that
Yeah.
voice, all of us. And so that's the ego talking to us.
Right.
And so if we're paying attention to that voice, we're not present with the other people that are around us. And we've got to be very careful to what we listen to, both people external to ourselves, and we need to be very careful about how much of ourselves that we listen to.
That's a
Because
good
our
point.
voice, as part of evolution, when we were Neanderthals, every day was a survival situation. So finding food or not being killed by a dinosaur or an animal that was far more powerful. So
Yeah.
you would have heard of the fight or flight scenario. So when we feel threatened, which was a very common occurrence when we were evolving, it was a fight or flight scenario. I'm going to fight myself for survival, or I'm going to flight, I'm going to run away for survival. And that's what the ego was designed to do. The ego is designed to protect us. That's where it came from. It came from our evolutionary process. So in modern times, each day is not a situation of, well, for us, luckily here in Perth in
Yeah.
Western Australia, luckily for us,
Yes.
each day is not a fight or flight for survival, yet we still have this trigger mechanism that triggers that response in us. So it's like, oh, I shouldn't start that business. You know, that's self-protection.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't approach that cute-looking girl over in the corner there because I might get rejected. That's self-protection. So if we listen to that voice too much, then we just don't go anywhere. We just protect ourselves, wrap ourselves up in cotton wool, and then nothing happens. The world passes us by.
So, Greg, how do you manage that then? Is it like a trigger that you have to kind of break yourself out of that thinking, or?
Yeah, it's this is a slightly different conversation. I'm enjoying it, Tracy.
Good.
Your audience don't mind talking about these kind of issues or hearing about it.
I'm enjoying it. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. And thank you for being open as well.
So the way that I deal with that, the way that I've dealt with it is, again, these are not my original ideas. This is just stuff that I've learned from other people and other thought leaders. But there's a great guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. Wrote an awesome book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And so what happens is, there's lots of layers to this, but one of the layers is that our brains are physically shaped by our thought patterns. So when we think in a certain way, there are neurons in our brain that create neural pathways to facilitate those thoughts. And so if you're a negative thinker, if a person is a negative thinker, their brain is going to facilitate negative thoughts because the neural pathways have been built for that. So then you just have this resting state of negativity. So the way to deal with that is through meditation. And it's not just our brain that produces thinking, it's our whole body. So the way to deal with that is through a meditative process, is to get out of the head, in touch with the body, and meditate on something. Let's say if you want to meditate on having a great business, what would it look or what would it feel like to have a great business in your mind? So you just ask yourself that question, and you put yourself into a state where your body is and your mind is feeling what it would be like to have a great business. And then through meditation and repetition, you can change the neural pathways in your brain to facilitate those thoughts versus the negative thoughts. And the other really interesting thing that I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza is that your body and your mind cannot tell the difference between an event actually happening and thinking about that event.
Yes.
It does not distinguish between the two. So if in the positive in that you can say, well, all right, well, what would it be like to have a great business? What would that feel like? You actually don't need the great business to generate that thought process in your mind and what that would feel like. You can just do it. And then your natural thought processes will then begin to flow in that direction as opposed to negativity. So that's how I've shifted. And I was, back in, a prior life, if I can call it that, my resting state was, scarcity, negativity, I'm not good enough to do this. All of those things would be running through my mind, self-protection mode, my ego taking control. So as I learned all about this, I then began to understand more about myself, and then I then had to put the practice in and the work in to change my resting state and the way that I thought. And that's the work that I've been doing, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. And it's completely changed my world. It is remarkable. And it's hard, when you're doing this for years at a time and you're not seeing the changes immediately, you're going, oh, this is rubbish.
Yeah, as many people do.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
And so it takes persistence to push past that and keep doing it and persisting and persisting and persisting. And now it's totally flipped. The way that I feel about myself and the opportunities outside of myself are completely and utterly different to what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you feel that practice has helped with that?
Absolutely. If there was one thing of all the stuff that I've done over the last 15 years in trying to work myself out, if there was one thing that I feel has made the most difference of all the stuff, and that is the breathing meditation. That is the one thing that has had the most remarkable difference out of everything that I've done. And that can be 10 to 12 minutes a day. That's all that's needed. So guided meditation, I use YouTube to do that. So it's free. I've got a paid YouTube account, so no ads. So for $20 a month or whatever it is.
Oh, great.
And, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars traveling the world and, becoming a franchisee in a business coaching sense and doing all their training. I've literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of money and hundreds more in terms of time. And the one thing, the breathing meditation, free on YouTube, 10 to 12 minutes a day.
Yeah.
You don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars like I did.
Yeah.
Change your world.
Isn't that interesting? Is that the one that you shared with me after the last time we met?
Yeah.
Yes, I have done it a few times. I will be honest, I'm a work in progress, so I haven't been as committed as what I should be. But one of my goals for this year was to meditate more. But I find I start and then my mind starts to drift. So I'm still trying to train myself. And I guess, like you said earlier, break my thought process when it comes to meditation. But you've inspired me after the story you've just shared of how it's really changed your world. Because I know it will be good for me, but I keep, like I said, I'm a work in progress trying to get there. And especially trying to break those negative pathways. That now the way you've explained it as well makes sense. It's so ingrained in our brains to just naturally go towards that scarcity mindset or doubt or, all those negative sort of feelings. But thanks, Greg. I'm going to try and get back into it.
Yeah, as I said, if there's one thing that I could recommend out of all the things, that would be it. And even to really add to that, about 4 months ago, I had one of my key team members, did a call with me. I do a one-to-one with my leadership team on a fortnightly basis. And she came to the call and she said, look, I think I'm going to resign. And I'm like, whoa, why? What's happening?
Yeah.
Tell me, what's going on? And so as it turns out, this particular person was having significant personal problems and challenges. And as a result of that, her performance at work was declining. She was making a lot of mistakes and she was feeling very guilty about her performance and the pressure that it was putting on the rest of the team, to the point that she decided that it was time to resign. So I said to her, I said, look, I accept, we all have our personal challenges, and I get that, right? That's what life does. And I said, I just want you to do one thing, and it's an unusual request, and I want you to do this during work hours. I don't want time to get in the way at all. I want you to do this meditation. I know it's an unusual request, but can you just do that for me? And I've done a lot, so I've supported her through different things, so she felt a little bit of obligation around that, which is fine. If I can help a person, I don't mind. So anyhow, I got her to agree to meditate daily during work time and just do it for 2 weeks. And then we have the conversation again. If she still wanted to resign after 2 weeks, then I'll accept a resignation and we'll plan it accordingly. 2 weeks later, her world had absolutely and utterly done a 180-degree turn.
Wow.
Her problems hadn't disappeared, but the way that she felt about herself and the way that she felt about how to deal with those problems and putting context around those problems had just completely and utterly flipped. And her work performance had just changed. And she was skeptical. She said, look, to be totally honest, I just thought, all right, Greg's asked me to do this, what?
Yeah.
It's rubbish, bullshit. But to her credit, she did it.
She did it. Wow.
And so that was 4 months ago, 5 months ago. She's still with us today, performing at her best. She's just announced her engagement. Everything.
Oh, fantastic. Wow.
Everything is falling into place for her. Like she's just like, I can't believe what's going on here. This is just what? Just from breathing properly.
Yeah. Isn't it
so
interesting?
It's just changed her world. So we've had now 3 people on the team who've also come to me with personal problems. And I've just asked to do the same thing. And every single one of them has just completely flipped where they're at. Like totally. And now they're just like, this is just now part of my life. I'm never going to give this up.
It's so interesting. And why do you think that is, Greg? Do you think it's because of that sort of, I guess, spiritual connection? The mind body is more in sync, or?
Yeah, look, I'm an economics and accounting dude, right? So I'm not, that's where the skepticism originally came from. But again, if you go back to the Dr. Joe Dispenza work, and he says that, metaphysics, right? So if you drop a pebble into a pond, there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so in a metaphysical sense, if we've got negative energy coming out of our bodies, and that's what we're going to send out into the universe in a metaphysical sense, and that's what's going to come back at us.
Yeah.
So breath work, getting our nervous system right, changes the way that our body is vibrating. Like not in you don't sit there and feel the vibrations, but just the general feel about yourself.
Yes.
And then it just comes back that way. And that meditation that I shared with you, that wasn't too long after I first started that style of meditation. And when I started that 8 months ago, whatever it was now, everything just fell into place. So I can't. So take last December, for example. Usually in December, no prospective clients want to talk to us. Is always, that's a next year thing. That's an after Christmas thing. I am not going to talk to you pre-Christmas. I'm too busy for that. So
yes,
I just position in my own mind that that's what December is like. Last December just gone, we had a record month of sales for any month of the year, not just December, but any month of the year. We've just not signed up any clients before in 1 month ever.
In 1 month. Gosh.
Not ever. And so it just everything was falling into place. And there was other things that was going on, apartments, living arrangements, all kinds of stuff. I had challenges. And so, my living arrangements were very up in the air and it's hard to find. And, I was buying off the plan. There's all this stuff, which, is all kind of boring detail. But I finally found a place to live, and there had to be a number of things to line up that would allow me to get in to buy this apartment. And it was a long shot. Like, it was like, wow, I had all these conditions written into the contract to say if this didn't happen, if that didn't happen, I could exit the contract. And the sales agent looked at that and went, mate, you want me to present this to the vendor? And I'm like, yeah, well, that's the best I can do right now. And he said, all right, well, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So he presented it to the vendor, and the vendors sort of rolled their eyes and like, all right, well, you know, if another offer comes in the meantime, then we want the ability to exit. I'm like, yep, no worries, that's fair, you know, because the conditions I put in were pretty ridiculous. But it all fell into place. Like just one thing after another, just all slotted in. And I'm just sitting there, just kind of in disbelief, going, no, this is not happening. I was pinching myself. Is this a dream or what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I don't know what, you know, all I can put it down to is that, you know, what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about. That's all I can put it down to. I just can't. So, you know, and even, you know, so far this year, this calendar year, you know, our client inquiry rates are up. You know, we've been signing up new clients. You know, a lot of different things are falling into place, and it just feels surreal.
That's awesome.
So I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm just like, let's just keep this going. So I'm waiting for the kick in the ass.
What was that, sorry?
I'm waiting for the kick in the ass, you know, like it's, and even, so that's going back to the negative thinking. It's like, it can't be this good. Surely it can't be this good.
Yeah, we question it.
Yeah. So when that pops up, it's like, let that go. Because that's not going to serve you.
And I mean, there is so much out there about manifesting your dream life. And I guess, like you say, our ego and our doubt seeps them and think, oh my gosh, we could never have it. But it sounds like you're doing that, you know, by carving out that time in your day to really connect mind, body, and soul. It's really manifesting into the other areas of your life. And I mean, we are energy and vibration at the end of the day with the universe, that's what I believe. And it makes sense, you know, if you do carve out that time and connect, it manifests into the greater picture of things.
It sure does. And, you know, that word manifest, again, was something that I was very, again, you know, as you know, country boy growing up in country Western Australia, economics and accounting, none of this, what I would have referred to back in the day is, you know, tree hugging, hippie style, you know, bullshit kind of, you know, vibrational frequency manifesting.
Yeah.
That rubbish.
Yeah.
That's how I used to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are like that. They're very adverse to that. Yeah, that's nonsense. Like, I'd rather just, you know, be doing my business stuff or focusing on the numbers where the facts are. But I mean, I think it's wonderful that you've shared your journey. Thank you so much. And I can relate to a lot of what you're saying because I've been on a very similar journey. Like I said, still work in progress. But having that mind, body, soul connection, I think is so important.
It is hugely important. Yeah. And then, you know, when we were talking about that, when we met up last year, it resonated with me because it was almost, it's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've been through that.
Yes.
So it was very, very familiar to me in what you were talking about, that experience that you were having.
Yeah, well, thanks again for sharing, Greg. And yeah, as you mentioned earlier about being present, and I definitely felt that as well because I think the universe kind of aligns you. Again, I'm getting all woo now, but I think the universe definitely aligns you with people on a similar path journey, and you have that connection. And so thank you for being so open today about the topic. And I do want to chat more about your business, if that's okay.
So for OurCFO, you know, we're an external CFO organisation, and the way that I've designed our service has been, I'm an ex-tax accountant, as I mentioned, and I've used the professional services model to construct our business model. So, you know, accounting firms, they have like a partner, a senior manager, and senior accountants and junior accountants, and they all have a part to play, and they all do their bit. And so our service model is very similar in the sense that all of the things that we do for our clients require different levels of skill. They require different skill sets. And so the way that we've constructed our service model is to bring anywhere between 3 and 6 people to every client that we work with. And we all have a part to play. We all use our specialized skills to do that. So our service model is built on bringing more to the business than you can get out of one person for less than the cost of one person. And that's essentially what we've done in, you know, that if if someone asks me, why are you different? That's the key difference in my view, is that we can bring a greater range of skills than you'll get out of one person for less than one person. And it also means that you get continuity. So if somebody is ill, somebody goes on a holiday, somebody resigns, there's always somebody there for our clients that knows what's happening with their business. And that's how we do it. But probably the other analogy I would make is that accountants are very well known, or accounting orientated kind of people are very well known for recording history.
Mm.
This is what happened last month, or this is what happened last year. And when we drive a car, and I use the vehicle analogy, we spend most of our time looking through the front windscreen to navigate from point A to point B. Yet the business world mostly is using the rear view mirror to do that. And so if you're going to drive from, say, Perth in Western Australia down to the southwest, down to Margaret River, exclusively looking in your rear view mirror, it's not going to end well.
Mm.
So a big part of what we do is to make sure that our clients have a clear forward view. Looking through the front windscreen, we know when to put the brake on, we know when to put the foot on the accelerator, we know when to turn left, we know when to turn right, and navigate our way forward, looking mostly through the front windscreen. Yeah, we do use the rear view mirror occasionally. It's important, and the side mirrors.
Yeah.
But what's most important is the forward view. And so, between the greater range of skills and the forward view, they're the key benefits, I guess, that our clients have in working with us.
And Greg, what would be some telltale signs if someone was at the stage where they would need your services?
Firstly, they're just going to be great people. We just want to work with awesome people.
Right.
So if you're a good person, you got to step in the door.
Yeah.
And the other part is a growth mindset. So we do things differently. We bring different intellectual property, and we want people to learn, and we want people to open their minds to seeing things differently, which goes back to that helicopter view that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So if they've got an open mind, they're good people, they want the forward view in their business, they have a growth mindset, both themselves personally and for their business, then they would potentially be the kind of business that we would work very well with.
And is there a certain team size or a number of years in business that they have to have been in order to work with someone like yourself?
Most of our clients turn over between, say, $3 million a year and $50 million per year. So they've got some scale. That's not an absolute, but it's indicative of sort of the businesses that we work with. They generally have some degree of scale in their business already.
And Greg, where's the best place for our audience to go to connect with you?
So they can catch up with me on LinkedIn. So I'm active on LinkedIn with video blogs. So if they just search for me on LinkedIn, they'll find me there. And also our website, so OurCFO.com.au. They'll find more information about the business as well.
I did actually want to ask you about your video blogs. I really enjoy them.
I'm glad you do, because finance is
it's great. It is. It's really good.
I had a call with my coach this week actually on that front, and there's going to be some changes coming. So keep an eye out for that.
Very cool. And I guess we guys kind of embracing a different platform to try and educate people on finance.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's hard to. Sometimes it's very complex. It can be complex. It's not always complex.
Yeah.
So trying to turn complex things into easy to understand ideas is quite a challenge. And I try to limit my videos to 90 seconds or less. So to try to get something in that format is a challenge, but that's what I signed up for. Therefore, that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a great job. It's like branding, try and break it down into bite sizes that are easy to understand. It can be very challenging.
It is, yeah. I've been through that process quite a few times, and right, it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time today. I've absolutely enjoyed our chat. And again, thank you for being so open and for all that you've shared.
Very welcome, Tracy. Love the chat, and can't wait to catch up again sometime soon.
Likewise, what we'll do is we'll pop all the links in the show notes. And yeah, we'd love to have you back sometime.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy.
Great. Thanks, Greg.